Okay. How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. So we are here with CBCS. Now, you guys know there's been a lot of fraud going on over at CGC with their cases and tampering and lots of things going on. So I thought it'd be best to get in front of, different issues with CBCS and see how they're going to handle it. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is West Steffen. I'm the head grader at CBCS. I do all the restoration, detection, and I've been at the company since 2014. I helped create it along with Steve Ricketts. And before that, I did work at CGC for 7 years as a grader. So I have a lot of experience in grading comic books professionally.
Okay, awesome. And Steve?
Hi, I am Steve Ricketts. I wear many hats at CBCS. I am the director of operations and pressing. I also work with product development and marketing and various other things that need help. West and I were two of the first two people hired by CBCS back when it opened, and we've been here since we actually just created it, I guess, from ideas. So
we were here before the beginning.
So you were actually, I interviewed Steve Borak. So he was one of the founders with you guys as well.
Yep.
Yeah. It was the three of us along with an investor, and we kind of build the team from the core of us.
And you said you worked at CGC prior?
Yeah, I worked at CGC for 7 years as a grader over there. So
okay.
I was involved with them as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so, and I'm sure you guys are aware of, the fraud that's been going on, the tampering of the cases. It's kind of a big deal because, like, at least in my opinion, the reason why we have third-party graders, such as your guys' self, is because as like someone who's in the industry, it just makes it easier. No one has to bicker between grades. It makes it very easy to, like, here's a deal. It's this grade. I'll price it at such price. And it makes this whole thing seamless because obviously my dad works for you guys, but I grew up around when he would have to do deals way back in the day, and people would argue over what a grade, this is, I think this is very fine. No, it's a near mint, So this kind of evens the playing field. But with that comes a lot of trust. And so we need that trust in the industry to make sure that these cases are, at least when they leave your guys' hands or whoever else's hands, whatever third-party grading, that it is what it's going to be, for the end of time until something happens to the case, they have to like recase it or something like that. So one of the issues was the reholder process with over at CGC is they would get these books, they would tamper with the cases, send them into a reholder, and they get a reholder. Now, CGC at the time did not regrade reholders. What is your guys's, I guess, stance, or how do you do reholders?
Well, what our policy is whenever books come in, they go through basically the same process that a non-reholder would go through. The only difference is that we have to crack them out of a case versus them being shipped to us in a mylar or a bag. Mm-hmm. So we go through the same process. We even before we crack them out, we look at the book. We make sure that there's no tampering with the case. We make sure that it is still solid. We have not actually had any books come in that we felt were tampered, which is good. Mm-hmm. But we have had quite a few books that have received damage from being dropped and mishandled through the years, through the post office and whatnot. And so we get, a fair amount of books that do have damage because of books being dropped. But we've never had anything where we were suspicious of someone tampering with the label. If that ever came across our desks, we'd probably have to figure out what was going on, see if we believe that it actually was tampered with. We would compare the notes on the book with the book itself to see if it actually is the same book. If the notes do not match up, then we're going to have to figure out, then we're going to have to start doing a more detailed investigation. But again, that hasn't happened to us yet. Typically, it's just slab damage, and like a corner might be crunched or something, or another minor defect.
And a lot of times the damage, if it does have some damage like that, it's not anything major, and it can be, you know,
it can be fixed.
We can press it and, you know, get it to the grade that it was.
Now, do you guys take pictures of your books, right?
Well, we take pictures of some books. Some people ask for an image. It's a service that you know, they pay for if they want a detailed image. Currently, we are not taking pictures of every book that go in and out. That is something that is on the to-do list, and something that will be happening very soon.
That's good.
Yeah, we entertained it a few years ago, back during the COVID, when we were just bombed with work and we couldn't do it at that time. And now, you know, now that we've got our method streamlined and our workflow streamlined and more people hired and trained, you know, we're getting to the point where we can now, you know, maybe address that going forward.
Yeah, we have a lot of things in the you know, in the works, and that is one of those things that we're scheduling to do.
Definitely on the table. I don't know when or if it'll happen, but it is definitely in talks.
Okay, yeah, because if someone sends in a reholder, you could just easily look at the picture that you took before of the book, and then be like, "Yep, the same book," you know, and that would probably help.
Even if it's the same book, doesn't mean it hadn't been dropped, and you know.
Yes, that is true, but at least
we do always check. Yeah, we do always check to make sure we have a finalizer look at the book and make sure.
Yeah, it's not like a restored one slipped in there or one missing a coupon or something.
Yeah, right now.
Right.
Yeah, we take a lot of notes on our books, so we're relying on the notes. And very infrequently do we see something that doesn't line up exactly. And generally that's, again, new damage that happened to the book from being dropped. Not anything having to do with books being tampered with or switched out.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit ago that you had some stuff in the works. Is there anything beyond taking pictures that you can talk about? There are some things in the works.
Well, Steve can probably talk to you about this a little bit, but we definitely have added some new security features, and we're working on possibly adding one or two more. Again, that's not anything that we want to say, hey, here's our security feature, because that's why it is a security feature.
Yeah, when we launched the new label a few months ago, we did add some security features to the label itself. There's been some videos floating around of, you know, the UV ink. If you look at the strip at the very top of the little blue strip or yellow strip at the top of the case on the front side, and shine a UV light on it, you can see CBCS logos in it. That's, you know, it's a quick tell for, you know, anybody to if you have a UV light, and, you know, it's just an easy way for you to make sure that the label's a genuine CBCS label.
Yeah, and that's going to be something that's very hard for someone who is creating a label to reproduce, because it's an expense, and something that someone who's trying to make this as cheap as possible is not going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically
we have other security features in the label that we know about that, you know.
Okay, so basically, if someone wanted to recreate a label, like print off one or basically forge a label, you have security features that would stop them from making their own labels, taking a 9.0, turning it into a 9.8, things like that. So that brings back to the case, though. So they would have to open the case undetected. Now, I know there's a guy online, Immaculate Comics, and he was showing how basically you can open a case with like a heat gun and all that kind of stuff. Now, have you guys seen that video?
I watched some of it, yes.
Okay. And now, have you guys tested those methods against your case?
Yeah, we've tested it. Yeah, the heat gun on our case, it's pretty incredible how quickly our case melts. So there's probably, you know, it's going to be a lot less invasive and a lot harder for somebody to tamper with a CBCS case. Our melting point seems to be lower, I guess.
So basically, what you're saying is, what normally would happen on, say, CGC case or something like that, you'd use the heat gun and it would just melt the glue first, not the case. But in your instance with CBCS cases, it actually melts the case first which would be what, a more tall tale sign of.
Well, I mean, I don't know the specifics of anything like that, but you know, we have done tests, and the heat gun, you know, it was, we could not, you know, we couldn't break into the CBCS Fortress case, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, when we tried it, there was clear evidence that
yeah.
that the book had been messed with in some degree, and maybe someone out there might not know it per se if they're not familiar with a case. But anyone who is familiar with a case would look at it and say, "Hey, this does not look right."
Yeah.
And at that point, they should send it in for, you know, verification that it's
Right.
not tampered with.
Could you possibly maybe, I think would be good, either make a video or give like pictures with like maybe a blog post talking about signs to look for if your book might have been tampered with in this way. Basically showing like, look, if someone's using like a heat gun or an oven or something like that, it's going to look like this, and maybe showing people. So
I
that
don't
way,
know. I can't get in the mind of, you know, somebody trying to perpetrate fraud, and how they would do it. I mean, you could have a case that had just been dropped by the post delivery, and it could, you know, I think that there's a lot of trigger happy people right now that, you know, are seeing damaged cases, and they may think that their book was tampered with, when it's just, you know, it was a crack in the case from the mail getting. And I mean, I don't want to spread any paranoia, because I don't know. We've never seen it, so, you know, I don't know what. I can't put myself in the mind of somebody who's. So there's always going to be crooks out there, you know, and I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, if you're a collector or a dealer, you know, do your due diligence, you know, no matter what case it is. If something doesn't look right, you know, it's worth the money to send it in for a reholder, just to make sure, you know, if you're nervous about it,
or just investigate.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say the issue is if someone bought it from someone, say off eBay, Heritage, Comic Loop, whatever, and they bought it and then they get it in, and then they're like, this looks weird, and they send in for a reholder, and then like, oh yeah, this, you know, 9.8 is actually missing a coupon, right? Or is, you know, it's a restored book. Then it's a little too late to go back to the eBay person and be like, hey, you sent me a fraud book. And then the guy's like, I bought it like that, you know? So I think it comes down to like the case itself has to be basically tamper proof. So when it changes hands 5, 10, 20 times, that every person along the line knows that it's good.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word tamper proof, because with enough money and time and tools and talent, you can break into anything or recreate anything. So, you know, our cases are more tamper evident, and, you know, versus tamper proof, because I don't want, you know, anyone to think, oh, you know, it's in a CBCS case, it's in this case, there's no way anything could ever, you know, be wrong with this. But if your case is tamper evident, which ours is, and ours is, in my opinion, you know, the easiest to tell if something has been tampered with it, that, you know, anyone who has any type of experience, you know, handling a slab should look at this and say, hey, I've seen it, you know, hundreds of these. This doesn't look right.
Yeah.
I need to investigate further.
I mean, look at the government and printing of money. I mean, every time they come out with some new way to, you know, thermal ink, or, you know, the little ribbon strip inside the, I mean, there's people,
3 months later, there's
a
copies
lot
of
of money in it, and there's people out there who are nefarious and are, you know, they're going to figure out a way to skirt the system and try to, you know, to perpetrate fraud.
And I would also say that if you get something in from eBay and it doesn't look right, just send it back, because you know, it's not worth it.
Could you maybe give, like I said, maybe photos or a list of things for collectors and dealers to look for? So if they do get something in from eBay, they're like, look, you got the CBCS case, they can go online and look for these little signs that you say that are evidence of possible tamperness. I mean, or something like that.
that's just going to be the splintering and the cracking and such. Like I said, and any of that could be just the case got, you know, dinged or dropped, or, you know, bumped. I mean, because our cases do fracture easily, and it's that way by.
I ran it over the car.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that way by design.
It took a beating.
Yeah, it's that way by design. We want, if somebody messes with the case, we want it to show some evidence of it, and, you know, that's. I like I said, David, I don't know if there's any way for us to get in the mind of somebody who could do it, because what we could show you could be something that was damaged from, setting the book or dropping the book on your bookshelf.
Yeah, and the other thing too is people are always thinking of new ways to break into stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how long people have been using heat guns to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been going on for a year, 10 years. I don't know. But, what are they going to be doing 10 years from now?
Yeah.
When the case was developed, I will say that we did make lots of attempts with different things to try to get into it. And a heat gun was one of those things we used. Yeah.
So I kind of like an interesting idea. What if, like, I don't know if you guys would be interested in this, but like someone like Immaculate Comics, he did a pretty good job. What if there's probably people like him, maybe putting a bounty on the case and going like, hey, if you can crack into this case without us knowing, and it seems to go through, maybe give them a bounty and then see how they did it.
I don't want to invite people to try to cheat the system. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
I just don't see that would be a good idea.
What about putting the serial number that's on the label on like the sleeve itself?
We are looking at some different, we're definitely trying to look at different things. That is, from our perspective, kind of, and it's in a substantial expense to do that. I don't know if that's something we will do, but we are definitely, we're not closing the book and saying we're the greatest. We're definitely still trying to get better.
Yeah, if we find, that something works and it's not cost prohibitive, it's definitely something that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is that, out of 100 books, how many people are going to try and switch out one of those because it's actually worthwhile? Maybe 1 out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to try and do this switcheroo on a $50 book, to make it, an $80 book.
Right.
It's not worth it. So, we know the types of books that people are going to want to switch out, and generally they're much more expensive.
I wouldn't say that would not be something they would do, because if I'm thinking like a criminal, I might try that to see if it'll go through, before I went on to something more expensive.
Yeah, well, that is a valid point.
Yeah,
but also, once you do something, add a step to every book, that means you either got to make less money or raise the fee, and businesses are businesses, and they got to make decisions as to what is worthwhile. And no one wants to necessarily pay more for a security feature that may not work all that great, or may only be needed 1 out of 1,000 times. But it's definitely something that we are going to look into, and we're taking suggestions from the community. If someone has a great idea, send it our way, and we're looking into everything.
Yeah, and just to go a little further with that, the CBCS case, when it was developed to be as much of a deterrent to anybody being nefarious to it, anybody trying to do anything to cheat the system. And our plastic formula, is just it is that way for a reason, and that's.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult to put in, a ton of safety measures into the case itself, while doing all the other things you want the case to do, such as be clear, not have Newton rings, not have puddling. So we think that we came up with the best case that covers all those things to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And
can it be improved on? Yes. And we're still, we work every day to try to come up with new ideas, and, maybe at some point there's going to be a mutation and a new case tweak or design that we do. And we're definitely not, this is not our final case. we will get it better as the years go.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're really proud of our case. I think,
Absolutely.
I see a lot of YouTubers, they grab a case and like, wow, this is a lot sturdier than I was expecting. It, it's built like a Cadillac. It's strong. It's,
it is. It's very tough. I did a whole video on how tough it is. So my thinking
and I
is,
watched that video.
Yeah, it was a fun video to do.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, my thinking is like when you said about the cost effectiveness of having this, let's say a Fort Knox case. I think if you had a Fort Knox case as an upgrade, I think a lot of people would pay for it, and they would resend in their cases that they currently have through you. Like say you have a Spider-Man 1 graded by CBCS, they'd resend that in, and they would get that Fort Knox case, and you could do it as a big upsell. Like, look, this is like the top of the top security, this blah blah blah, like all the bells and whistles. And I think it would actually be a money maker, as opposed to like you guys are thinking like, oh, it would cost too much and blah blah blah. If you have like this special case,
we have thought about that. We've definitely thought about that as something, and maybe we could use it on exclusively use it on expensive high books. I don't know what the answer is, but
yeah, maybe the answer is to make a case that the case goes into, and that case is
we can grade the inner
that
case.
You can make tamper proof. But
yeah, you could build something like that, and it's just like, I could see collectors going, because there's a difference between someone buying like a $50-$100 book and then getting a case and they put it in the wall, versus someone who buys it for an investment and they literally stick it in a box somewhere. They never see their Amazing Fantasy 15, and then they buy this an 8.0, $100,000, $200,000, whatever it is, and they want to make sure that what they're getting is like, look, this is like, no one has touched this. So if I could see people resending in their books, I could also see people opting when they send in a book to be like, look, give me the Fort Knox, because when you have that and you go to turn around to sell it, it's going to be a massive selling feature to be like, look, this is an unbreakable case or whatever it is, a Fort Knox case. So I could see that as being actually a great business money maker.
Yeah,
and you figure out what you need to charge and all that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents.
No, it's good. Good feedback. We appreciate it.
I think, do you have any more comments or questions on any of this?
No, again, I would just say, if you get in a book and something doesn't look right, you got to decide if you want to take the chance, if you want to send it back, if you want to send it into whatever company for a reholder. But yeah, to keep in mind that, if someone's going to say, hey, there's a 10-day return policy, you're going to have to ship that book off really fast. So you may be out the window. And again, if someone is giving you a very limited window of time to return it, that might be someone that you might want to not spend $50,000 with.
Yeah.
Well, I just be observant. And I mean, the best thing that is, as you can attest to, for comic collectors, is experience. And the more books you handle, and the more you don't become an expert overnight. In the first probably several years that you're doing this, you're clumsy and you're going to make mistakes, but just try to learn from your mistakes and get better. And
I have a website, collectorscomics.com, and we run auctions. So I get tons of other people's books in, and so now I'm finding myself the more expensive ones, I'm like double checking to see if there's any type of tamper stuff. And so that's why I was saying, like, any pictures or any videos that would help people like me, even people at Comic Link and Heritage and stuff like that, to figure out what are we looking for, because we don't want to sell something in our auctions and then it comes back and then someone's like, hey, this was tampered with, and then it's like, oh God,
Well, let me ask you this. You've obviously dealt with thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of slabs. Yeah. Have you ever got something in that you thought, maybe there's some tampering going on here, or was that not even in your mindset at the time?
It was never in my mind. I always look for cracks and stuff like that. And, some of CGC's really old cases were very kind of loosey-goosey. And so like, I definitely extra look at those to make sure there's nothing going on with those. But I never thought of heating a book, the sealant is then unsealed and they stick it back together. I'm like, I don't even know if I would know. I'll probably have to get a heat gun myself and test it out so I know what I'm even looking for, because like I said, I didn't even didn't even think occur to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And like you said, that's just one tool that someone thought of and,
Yeah.
and is using, you know, who knows what other people are doing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. True.
Maybe
So-
they're running over their slabs with a car a couple times.
Yeah. That was a fun one. Okay. Awesome, guys. Thanks. You guys have a promo code to give out to people, right? To send
Yes.
in?
Yes. And that was in conjunction with the promo code that you gave out on your video. That is still active. It is video 15 off is the promo code. So if you do that, you get 15% off your order on the grading.
Yeah. And is that for all grading or just priority?
Just priority.
Just priority grading. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same one that was active for you last year. So
okay. Yeah. So if you guys want to send your stuff to CBCS, obviously they have tested their cases with the methods that were shown that we know of, and they have said that they don't work on their cases due to, like, I guess a melt rate is lower, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that's why they're tougher.
Our cases are pretty easy to crack as far as, you know, the fracture point.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so you'll be able to see if someone tried to tamper with it.
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, that could be from, you know, somebody dropped the case, but just be aware. And, you know, we don't know what to look for because we're not trying to break into our own case to get one over on us, but we do look at all and we always have, we've always looked at the book after we get it in for a reholder just to make sure that everything's okay, because the last thing we want is one of our books to go out and have the wrong grade on it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for taking the time and talking about this and giving your guys' perspective on this whole situation.
Thank you.
Hopefully all the stuff kind of, you know, resolves and they find the people who have done this. And
I agree.
Thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.